Welcome to Grizzly Tales for Gruesome Kids, a series of cautionary tales for lovers of scream. Tests. Nobody likes them, but we've all got to do them. Get off there, lazy bones. You wouldn't know he's got a test on Friday, the amount of sleeping he does. It's his driving test, too. That'll teach him! I call this tale the history lesson. It was history. Elizabeth hated history. Which famous English monarch has the same name as you? Oh, I know this one, said Elizabeth. George III? She only had herself to blame. Elizabeth had not done a stroke of work. It's not Henry VIII, is it? We are ready for you now, girls, said Miss Pernine de Berme, the French teacher. Elizabeth was going to fail. She knew it. You have exactly 3 hours to complete your papier. You may regard the questions maintenant. There was a flurry of activity as 150 pieces of paper were turned over. Then there was 1 minute of silence while 150 pairs of eyes scanned the questions. Then there was another frantic commotion as 149 girls unscrewed their pen tops and started writing. The 150th girl looked at the others and bit her lip. Crikey, thought Elizabeth. I wish I'd done a bit more homework. She couldn't answer one question. She tried to keep calm. She read the questions again and sat back to think deeply. Then she sat forward and leant on her elbows. She gazed at the ceiling, at the window, at everyone else scribbling madly, and then at the exam paper again. Then she reread the questions, just in case they'd miraculously changed since she'd last looked. They hadn't. They looked just as impossible now as they had 5 minutes before. Perhaps it was her pen that was stopping her from knowing the answers. She swapped it from her right hand to her left. No difference. So, she put the nib in her mouth. That was stupid. Still, it gave her something to do for the next 10 minutes as she blotted the ink off her tongue. Elizabeth. Yes, Mr. Berme. But Miss de Berme was at the other end of the hall. Over here. Elizabeth turned to see where the voice had come from. Bet you're doing history, said the girl in the strange clothes. How did you know that? Do you want any help? I'm Penny. Elizabeth! Boomed Miss de Berme from the front of the hall. Quick, hide! If she finds you here, she'll give us both a detention. Stop parleying-vous, you naughty girl, shouted the French teacher as she steered a course for Elizabeth's desk. Relax. She can't see me. No, please, this is no time for jokes. In truth, she can't. Watch. Frere Jacques, you're much fatter than a big porky pig. Soggy semolina, garlic croissantina, big bad pong, ends last song. Elizabeth buried her head in her work and pretended that Penny wasn't there. Any more talking, and I shall see you to the headmistress, you bad thing, you. Penny was pulling faces behind the teacher's back. What are you staring at? Nothing, said Elizabeth weakly. Bon, then get on with your work. Phew. When Penny came over and sat next to Elizabeth, she was grinning from ear to ear. She didn't see you. I told you she wouldn't. But why? I'm a ghost. You could have knocked Elizabeth down with a poltergeist. How long have you been dead? Only 100 years. I used to be a pupil at this school, you know, until it burnt down. When was that? Oh, about 100 years ago, during exam week. You mean you actually died in the fire? During the history exam? At this, Elizabeth pricked up her ears. So now, every year during the history exam, I have to come back here and do a bit of haunting. That must be awful for you. Not really. I'm pretty good at history. Well, you would be, smiled Elizabeth. If you've sat the history exam 100 times. Are you asking? No, I'm begging. Elizabeth sat back and let the ghost answer her history exam for her. It finished with half an hour to spare, which was just as well, because any longer and it would have faded away altogether. What's happening to you? I'm out of juice, said Penny. See you next year. And with that, she crossed back into that secret other place on the far side of nowhere. A week later, the exam results were pinned to the notice board. Elizabeth was bursting with excitement. If Penny had sat the exam 100 times before, how could Elizabeth fail but to come top? First place, 98%. Rachel Smith. So she hadn't come first. Elizabeth was a little disappointed, but second place would do. Second place, 91%. Teresa Watkins. She wasn't second either. In fact, she wasn't third, fourth, fifth, or even sixth. Right at the bottom, in last place, she read the impossible. 150th place. Elizabeth McGregor. 0%. Elizabeth was stunned. It hadn't crossed her mind that Penny's ghost might be just as stupid and lazy as she was. Unfortunately, though, it was! Who'd have thought a ghost could be that stupid? Whoa! Woo! On second thought,